Simon, by the beach. Love it. Don't we all wish we were by the beach?
It's a nice day here too.
Is it?
Nice day to be at the beach, yeah.
Lucky man. Lucky man. You got the weekend off, Ryan, or are you back at work?
No, mate, I've got the next week and a half off.
Oh, lucky you. Lucky you.
Yeah. Yeah, so clean up around the house and chilling with the kids. I got one's home sick today, so
That's fine. That's fine. Just cold and flu, or?
Yeah, I just didn't feel well in his stomach this morning.
Oh, good. That's a shame. That's a shame.
It's all right, he's doing well. He's been a lot quieter than I thought he'd be.
That's a bonus. There you go. There you go. Awesome, Edward. I got your message. Having said that, I did turn it on for a reason there. So, and then the academic, it's a reason that's going to support you as we travel through things. So, yeah, if you got issues with it, just let me know. But I did turn on for an academic reason there. So on that note, everyone, if you're back, present, ready to go, ready to rock and roll, drop a P in the chat and let me know that you're present, ready to go. Awesome. On that note, what I would love you to do, drop an S in the chat for support. Drop an S in the chat for support, please. Drop an S in the chat for support. Support. All right, cool. So let's get to the meat of the topic here, which is all about support strategies, right? Now, earlier today, we looked at the 5 core skills. Let's speak some Russian, folks. Drop in the chat. What were the 5 core skills? What are the 5 core skills? Das Vidanya, give me some Lerwan. Beautiful, beautiful. So Sheila's added a new one. She's added an S. I'm not sure what an S1 or Schwan is. Maybe it is not sure what that is, but I'm sure she's going to change it to an L very shortly there. Awesome. All good. A bit of Lerwan. That's where we want to be. That's the place to be with some Lerwan. Learning, reading, writing, oral communication, numeracy. So here's the deal, folks. I've got 12 years of ESL and communication experience to teach you in a very limited period of time. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you some underlying principles that will underpin all of the strategies that we use, right? So on that note, hopefully, though, you've started to understand the importance of curiosity and empathy. All right. Hopefully, you've started to understand the importance of that and know that everyone's perfectly beautiful and we just meet them where they're at. Everyone, let's just lock that idea in there, C&E in the chat, and let's get that going on. So the first core skill that we talked about is learning. Learning. All right. So as we go through this, I'm going to teach you each of the support strategies, but I'm going to do it via a story, right? Now, as we go through this, some of you may go, oh, Mark, you're being a bit racist. You're being a bit stereotypical there. All I'm doing is simply sharing what I've observed, what I've experienced, and how I've helped people as best as I could. So if you hear any generalizations in my conversation or my teaching, just take a deep breath and let it go, because I've probably dealt with quite a few different nationalities and supported quite a few. So I've seen some tendencies or some habits there, right? So just take a deep breath, right? So on that note, story time and learning. All right. So when I used to work at the university here on the Gold Coast, we had a lot of Saudi Arabian students, right? And one thing I noticed with Saudi Arabian students is they were a little bit different on the whole learning level side of things, right? And Saudi Arabian students came from a culture where it was a little bit more spoon-fed, here you are, here's the knowledge, right? So what I had to do is I had to work with the Saudi Arabian students to help them to learn to think for who, folks? Drop in the chat. I need to help them to learn to think for Drop in the chat. I need to learn to help them think for who? Beautiful. Think for themselves, right? So I would have a lot of students that were a little bit more trained in that area, but they were not as trained, right? So they would come to me and say, teacher, what's the answer? And I'm like, oh, okay. So I would then get to a point where I would say, that's a great question. Really glad that you asked that. Go and have a chat to Mary over there. Mary in the corner. She's actually answered that question. She'll be able to help you out with that. Or Mark, what's the answer? Great question. Really happy you asked. Go and check out this website. It's going to have the answer in the first paragraph there. Or I would say, Mark, what's the answer? I'm like, so glad you asked. Go ahead, check out the textbook on page 39. It's got the answer on the second paragraph there. Drop a yes in the chat if that makes sense as to how I was building them to look for the answer for themselves. I wasn't going to do it for them, but they needed to be trained to look for it and think outside the trainer and outside the direct input for all of their answers there, right? So the guiding principle is we want to help them to learn to think for themselves, right? And anytime we're giving the answer, we're kind of robbing them of a learning opportunity, right? Now, the key thing is, though, we don't want to be too overt with it. We don't want to be doing it all of the time because people's confidence can crash a little bit. So you want to be very careful on coaching them too much and asking them questions all of the time. So you got to calibrate this, right? So the idea is, though, we want to train them to think for themselves. And one thing I used to do with my daughter when she was about 4 or 5 years old, I'm kind of a bad dad, but a good dad at the same time. So when my daughter at McDonald's would say, Dad, I want some tomato sauce, she would say it in Japanese, but she would say, Dad, I want some tomato sauce. I'm like, all right, awesome. So instead of going up and getting the tomato sauce for her, I took her up to the counter and I told her what to say. And I said, repeat after me. And we would say it, and then I would say, okay, now you have a go. And she would say it, and then I'd get the counter person to give her the tomato sauce, right? So I was training her to be active and take action without looking just to me for the answer for the solution. Drop a yes in the chat if that makes sense, right? So I was training her to be independent because I wanted her to be able to survive in the big wide world. And now she's doing things, I'm like, whoa, you just did that by yourself? Cool, right? Now she'll go and renew her passport, and I'm like, okay, cool. I had no idea. Or she'll book. I won't give any more examples, right? So next thing is support strategies. What I would love you to do is look at this list here. Hopefully you can see my slides, and if you can't, you'll let me know. And just pick out one that really resonates with you. So we got coach more, teach less, provide resources, not the answers. Developing own study strategies, coach them through the challenges, case studies, problem solving tasks. Find areas of significant interest and contextualize materials. Gamification, I don't really love it. Regular review, students teach each other. I'm a fan of that. Accountability buddies, I'm a fan of that. Growth mindset versus fixed mindset, have that conversation. I'm a fan of that. Looking at this list, tell me the one that really resonates with you and that you love. Drop in the chat which one stands out to you. Go for it, team. What have we got? Problem solving tasks. Awesome, Simon. Love it. Provide resources. Very cool. Very cool. Coach more, teach less. Awesome. Significant interest and contextualize, right? Awesome. So when I used to have a lot of Brazilian students on the Gold Coast and teaching them, I used to teach leadership through concepts like surfing and marketing through surfing. Why? Because they love surfing. All right. I'm not interested in it, but they were. With other students, they were into gangster rap and hip hop. So we would look at the lyrics and we would look at different conversations and different social issues that were prescribed or painted out in the hip hop stuff that they were hugely a fan of there, right? So find areas of interest. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Students teach each other, coach, mentor, love it. All right, before we move on, let's speak some Russian. Drop in the chat. What's the next core skill, folks? Drop in the chat. What's the next core skill? We got learning. What's the next one, folks? Learning and learning. Beautiful. Thanks, Sarah. All right, cool. So the next one is reading. All right. Now, the idea is write to their, not story time. So in Melbourne, many years ago, I'm getting old. I once taught a TAE at an ESL school, right? So we were just hiring the classroom. Now, while I was doing some stuff, I noticed the evacuation procedure on the wall. And I noticed that I tried to read it. Now, remember, it's an English school. I tried to read it. I can read, but the people in the building was English as a second language. English as a second language. I was trying to read the evacuation. I was getting confused. I'm like, how do I get out of this building? I've got no idea what this document actually says. And when I saw that, it really drove home the point to me that the majority of the time, and so many times, people will write things for themselves, not the who, folks. Drop in the chat. Who do we not actually think about when we write materials? We don't think about the person that is actually going to drop in the chat, actually going to read it, right? Like, what a crazy idea. We don't write it for the user, for the reader. We write it for our language. And it was like one of those huge moments of disconnect, right? So reading support strategies, we want to write it to their level, not ours. Write it to their level, not ours. Drop a yes in the chat if that makes sense. Drop a yes in the chat if that makes sense. We want to write it to our level, their level, not ours, right? And at the end of the day, we want to be making sure that everything is readable and digestible. But if we have a think about the number of times we see PowerPoints or even documents, it's like, whoa, too technical, can't handle it, right? So the idea is reading, write it to their level, not yours. So if we take a look here, we've got text to voice. We got words to pictures, simplify the words, smaller chunks, steps, translation of words for non-English speakers, add simple diagrams, shorter sentences, glossary. Drop in the chat, out of this list here, which one really resonates with you? You got learning, reading, and which one really resonates with you? And in life, sometimes we have a psychological block and we go, oh, I can't make it that simple. That's not right. Well, it's like simple actually creates a transformation. Smaller chunks, beautiful, beautiful. Smaller chunks, beautiful. All right. So in the email, diagrams, very cool. Words to pictures. Nice work, team. Nice work. Now, in the email that I sent out earlier today, I'm just going to show you a quick example. And this will be something that relates to your assessment later on today. We've got this example that I showed you or I've included, and we've got this bad version of a slide, right? I literally went to Google and I typed in bad PowerPoint slide. And this one came up, strangely, right? If you go to Google and type in bad PowerPoint slide, drop a yes in the chat if you would agree that that's a bad PowerPoint slide. It's a bad slide, bad slide, bad slide, right? Hopefully you don't have any of those kind of slides in your workplace, right? But that's a bad slide. Why? Because it hurts my eyes and it's just way too much information. There's something in our world of training called cognitive load, right? Cognitive load basically talks about how much pressure on the brain is there when we're taking information in, right? Cognitive load on that is crazy. It's like far out. I'm dying on that one, right? Drop a yes in the chat if cognitive load's making sense for you. You'll look, oh my fucking God, seriously. Right. So when we're presenting information, we want to light on the load and we want shorter, sharper, and to the point, right? So that is a much better, in my opinion, version of that. Hopefully drop a smiley face in the chat if you would agree that that is a better version than what's above. They're too busy, don't know how to do it. Social media is odd, seems too complicated. Yep. Hopefully you'd agree with that. All right. If you don't, then maybe you're smarter than I am, right? Awesome. All right, cool. So let's come back to my strategies here, right? So what's the next core skill, folks? We got learning, reading. What's the next one? Learning, reading. Beautiful. Thank you. Support strategies, right? So this one is all about a good job. Everyone drop the words good job in the chat. 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 Good job. Beautiful. So here's the thing, folks. If I want to teach you to write a resume in Japanese, well, it would be weird of me to not actually show you what a good job looks like, right? And maybe you can relate, have you ever had a situation where your boss has asked you to do something? They say, I want you to do X, Y, Z. You do it, and then you send it to the boss, and he goes, no, that's not what I'm looking for. Or no, I want you to completely different. Drop a yes in the chat if you've ever had that situation, right? Someone asks you to do something, you do it, and they go, no. And then you're puzzled and you're like, well, you actually never told me what a good job looks like. You actually never showed me what you're expecting it to look like. Drop a yes in the chat if that makes sense. You can catch that frustration moment, right? So it's kind of like me walking into my daughter's room and say, clean your room. And then she moves around a couple of things. I go back and I'm like, you haven't cleaned your room. And she's like, well, you never told me what a good job looks like. So that's on you, Dad. Dad, that's on you, right? So, and it is, right? I never showed her, told her, presented to her what a good job looks like. So, if I want to teach someone to write, I need to show them what a good job looks like. So, if I want to get you to write a resume in Japanese, I'm going to show you what one looks like. We're going to copy it together and we're going to use the templates and we are going to create a good job. So, anytime you want someone to write something, you need to show them what a good job looks like, right? And that could be showing a completed copy or getting them to fill out a template. Or even if you're getting them to do a report, you need to show them what a previous example looks like, all right? So show them what a good job looks like. Drop a yes in the chat if that's making sense for you there. Good job, good job, good job. Without it, don't get angry if someone doesn't give you what you want because you haven't told them or shown them what you want. So support strategies, we've got scribe, verbal interview, templates and tracing. We got provide completed examples, reading and writing hotline, collaborative writing and group work. Drop in the chat which one really resonates with you and which one's landed for you there, folks. Collab writing and group work, awesome. Completed examples, very cool, Hamish. Very cool, very cool. Examples of what a good job looks like. Absolutely. I once had an RTO that I consulted for. Every single student was failing the crowd control register. I said to the trainers, are you showing them what a good job looks like? They're like, no. I'm like, there's your problem. Provide completed. Beautiful. All right. So next one is oral communication. Oral communication. So oral communication, two guiding principles here. We got the quality of the communication is the. What do you think would fit into the first sentence there? Quality of the communication is the what you get. Drop in the chat. What's the response? Quality, yep, is the message you get. Quality of the communication is the, another word I'm looking for is the, what could it be? It's a word that starts with R. Quality of communication is the beautiful, the response you get. All right. So if you don't get the response that you want, you have to change your communication. Makes sense, right? People don't. Now, the next one is really, really important. People don't listen as fast as you talk. People don't listen as fast as you talk, right? Speak. Yeah, absolutely. Speak works too there. Right? So what I'd like to do is I'm going to tell you a quick story about Mrs. Lee from China. Mrs. Lee from China, Mrs. Lee from China. Now, Mrs. Lee from China is at your local shopping center. Now, Mrs. Lee from China walks up to the information booth and she says, hello, how me go JB Hi-Fi? And the information person says, oh, yeah, no problem. Just go straight ahead through the food court, turn left at Kmart, keep going straight ahead, and turn right at KFC. Drop in the chat, is Mrs. Lee from China getting to JB Hi-Fi, yes or no? Drop in the chat, is she getting to JB Hi-Fi? Zilla, no. Awesome. Now, she's not getting there for a number of reasons, but let's change it up and let's have a think about how we can get Mrs. Lee from China to JB Hi-Fi. So, hello, how go JB Hi-Fi? Excellent. So you would like to go to JB Hi-Fi, is that correct? Yes. Okay. Go straight ahead through the food court. At the food court, turn left. Go straight ahead. JB Hi-Fi is on the right. Let me just check in and let me just review. Go straight ahead through the food court. At the food court, turn left and blah, blah. Drop in the chat, what did I add in to the second version there to help Mrs. Lee from China get to JB Hi-Fi, folks? Drop in the chat, what did I do that was a little bit different in that second version than the first version there? Drop in the chat, what did I do that was different? What did I do that was different? Simplify the directions. Yep, cool. What else did I do? Emphasis, nicely. Check in. There's my man. Time to get. Ah, Simon. There's my man. There's my man. Faster speech. Yep. So the key thing that we're looking to do there is full stops and check in. Full stops and check in. Full stops and check in. And everyone drop in the chat. Full stops and check in. Full stops and check in. Drop in. Full stops and check in. Because here's the thing, folks, what we often find is it's not about necessarily how fast we talk, but it's do we have distinct pauses between each of our sentences? Drop a yes in the chat if that makes sense, right? Do your sentences run on, or is there a clear pause so that somebody can hear the information, digest it, and go, okay, cool, yeah, I got that. Yep, cool, I got that. Yep, I got that. And we are creating time and space for the information to be received. And then we go, okay, cool. And then we want to check in with our learner to make sure they got it as well, right? So, and we would want to avoid asking, do you understand? Because that's going to make someone feel awkward if they don't understand, right? Instead, you want to check in with them and ask some questions such as, does that make sense? Or when we were looking at the document, what did I want you to put here? Yes, absolutely. Pop your name there, right? So you want to check in with them. So oral communication, you may want to get a translator, full stops and check in. Get students to repeat back instructions, maybe, not a huge fan of that one. Provide written instructions, huge fan of that one. Show a video with subtitles. Yep, role play with pre-written scripts, glossary, awesome. Drop in the chat, what'd you love from here? And let me know. Beautiful. All right, cool. Checking in, chicken in. Chicken in, full stops and check in. Awesome. Drop a smiley face in the chat if you're enjoying some of these support strategies and it's making sense to you there. And maybe it's getting some value from it. Yes, beautiful. Awesome. So we've got learning, we got writing, we got oral, but I want to share with you what I call the advanced hacks. The advanced hacks, right? Now, this is a slide you may want to take a photograph of, but this is something that takes you to the next level. And this is the kind of stuff that I talk about in my book. I wrote a book on advanced workshop facilitations, but for me, if you get this, your communication will really skyrocket. So first thing is watch your pace. Watch your pace. What I mean by that is important stuff, slow down. Less important, speed up. All right. And that's something I'm always very conscious of. And if it's important, I'm going to do the next thing, which is repeat things multiple times, but not in the same way. All right. So you will hear things from me many times, but I'm not going to stand here and go, ACS, 5 core skills, ACSF, 5 core skills, ACSF, 5 cores. I'm not going to do that, but I am going to weave it through my explanation, such as, yeah, there's this book called the Australian Core Skills Framework. It's got 5 levels. These 5 levels are broken down across the 5 core skills there. Each of the levels, going from 1 to 5 there, talks about different difficulty levels. And, you know, personally for me, when I looked at the 5 core skills, drop a yes in the chat if you can see how I'm weaving in the same concepts over and over again, but I'm not standing there going, yeah, blah, 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 and repeating it. I'm weaving it in, right? So next one is the expression, not yet, but in a moment. Not yet, but in a moment. Everyone, if you could drop that expression into the chat there for me, if you could please. Drop yet, but in a moment. Not 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 yet, but in a moment. All right. And maybe here's a tricky one, or here's a fun one. Drop a yes in the chat if you've heard me over the period of this week we've been together in any way, shape, or form. Use that expression in any way, shape, or form. Not yet, but in a moment. Drop a yes. Maybe you have, maybe you haven't. Probably I've used it hundreds of times already. Reason for this is, yeah, Hamish, you would have, but it's been very subtle. The thing is, folks, here's the difference. Okay, so I'd like you to so now we're going to do an activity, and you're going to stand up and move over to the left-hand side of the room. And when you go there, I want you to drop in the chat a yes if you've ever had a situation where you start to give instructions that people have moved too soon, and you're like, "Whoa, I haven't finished giving the instructions," right? And that's what happens if we don't use this expression. So not yet, but in a moment. We're going to head over to the left side of the room. And when we do that, we're going to take our pen and paper. All right. That way you put a break between people taking action and hearing what you're going to say. So not yet, but in a moment, we're going to into a breakout room. We're going to do blah, blah, blah. Right. So a lot more gentle on the brain. Now, next one is focus on the blue tree. Focus on the blue tree. Focus on the blue tree. Now, this is say it the way that you want people to think about it. Say it the way that you want people to think about it. Say it the way that you want people to think about it. So here is an example of what not to do. What not to do. Okay. And hopefully you haven't experienced too much of this before, right? Maybe drop an R if you can relate to what I'm about to present. And if you've ever heard this, drop an R. Hello, everyone. Today, we're going to cover WHS legislation. I know it's dull and boring, but just bear with me as we go through it. I know it's going to be a little bit dull and boring, and it's something that we've gone through over 1,000 times. But just bear with me as we go through it. Drop an R in the chat if you've ever heard an intro like that, right? I know it's going to be a little bit dull and boring, but just bear with me as we go through that, right? And as I see the R's, my heart breaks, right? Because why would I want to tell them it's going to be dull and boring? Like that's just trainer shooting yourself in the foot and then wondering why it's gone wrong. Like, why would you do that? It's just weird. That's just stupid and idiotic. Sorry, it is, right? Why would you walk in there and it's not going to get you any friends? It's actually going to get you enemies, right? And I've done a video on this on YouTube. I got quite a few views, over 100 on this one. It's the biggest mistake that trainers make, right? So instead, why wouldn't you walk into a room and say, "Hi guys, today we're going to cover some really exciting stuff. It's going to be so empowering. It's going to give you exactly the knowledge that you need in order to know what to do if you have an accident and keep your company out of a court situation. And it's going to make sure that you go home in one piece, or if you have an accident, know exactly what to do. Let's jump into it. Let's get excited. Let's get ready to go." Drop a yes in the chat if you think that may be a slightly better intro than the first one there. Drop in yes, yes, right? So it comes back to the idea, tell it the way that you want people to think about it. Right? If you want them to be excited, tell them to be excited. If you want them to know that it's going to be life-changing, well, tell them it's going to be life-changing. If you tell them that it's going to be boring, people for them, right? So say it the way that you want people to think about it. Yes, there are many times when in the past I've looked at content and go, "Oh, that's fucking boring." But if I tell them it's going to be fucking boring, it will be boring, right? So that's on me to make it magical and interesting. Next one, last one is avoid stating things in a negative, right? So if I say to someone, "Don't look at page 14," or "Don't be late," highly likely they are going to. If I say don't slam the door, don't slam the door, don't slam the door, drop in the chat. What do you think people are going to do? Don't slam the door. They are going to do what, folks? Drop in the chat. Don't slam the door. Don't slam. Yep, they're going to slam the door. They're going to do that because the conscious mind cannot process a negative, right? The unconscious mind can't go, "Oh, okay, so I'm not meant to slam the door. What am I meant to do instead? Oh, I meant to shut it quietly. Okay, well then why didn't you tell me that?" So we want to phrase things in the positive. So instead of saying "don't be late," we say "be on time, shut the door quietly," or "participate fully," right? So we want to phrase things in the positive. On that note, folks, we've got some advanced hacks going on here. Drop in the chat which ones really resonated with you and you're like, "Oh, that maybe I could explore that even more." Go for it, chat. Go for it. Drop in the chat which one's like, "That one, I want to play with that a little bit more." Focus on the positive. Pace versus input. Yeah, awesome. Pace. Very cool, very cool, very cool. Avoid saying things are negative. Yeah. Don't touch that. You touched it. I told you not to. Well, I didn't hear you say that. I heard you say touch it. Avoid saying things are negative. Very cool, very cool, very cool. Awesome. And not yet, but in a moment, you remind yourself of the importance of using the expression not yet, but in a moment. Really, really powerful expression there. Awesome. On that note, we got the final one here, which is numeracy support strategies. You can fill in the blank here, but it's make the numbers. What, folks? Drop in the chat. Make the numbers. Can anyone remember or could imagine what the word might be? Make the numbers. Make the numbers. REL. Beautiful, relevant. All right. I've got a small brain, so don't make me do too much too soon. So I want to have multiple practice opportunities with small numbers, then make them a bit harder and make it relevant to me. So, if I'm painting a house, well, let's talk about painting the house. Don't make me do random fractions for no reason. So we got realia, pizza, so fractions and pizza. Make examples in training relevant to what's being studied. Yeah. Start with smaller numbers, practice the formula, videos, provide a calculator, provide case studies, put numbers into words and figures, encourage errors and mistakes to build confidence, get students to talk you through how they are doing things, and never, ever ask the question why. Don't ask the question why. You don't want to use the question why. Instead, use the expression how. I'm just curious, how did you arrive at that particular response there? It's going to be a much more soft and gentle. From this list here, tell me one that really resonates with you and that you like. Why did you come up with that answer? Because I want to smash you in the face. Whenever we ask a why question, we're going to instantly get defensive, right? So encourage errors. I love it. Yes, calculator. Very cool. Very cool. Very cool. Relevancy. Beautiful. Alrighty, relevance. Awesome. So on that note, what we're going to do, we're going to, not yet, but in a moment, we're going to quickly jump into a breakout room. And what I would love you to do is simply share with your partner. We've covered a lot today. We've covered the 5 core skills: learning, reading, writing, oral communication, levels 1 to 5 there. We've covered overwhelm, confusion. We've covered chunking, scaffolding. We've covered the different support strategies and different ways to support each. We've covered stuff. It's been good. We've covered the framework and how we could fall on that framework there and how other people can. We've looked at curiosity and empathy, and it's not about how well we think we've said it, but how well it's landed. On that note, you can head into a breakout room and simply share with your partner 2 of your major takeaways from today's content so far. It could be some of the support, or it could be any ahas that you've had. On that note, head into your rooms, and I'll bring you back in about a minute and a half, 2 minutes. Go for a team. What you got? Awesome team. Awesome team. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Go ahead, drop in the chat. What's one of your takeaways so far from today? I know you shared probably more than one, but go ahead, drop in the chat. What's one of your takeaways from today so far? Drop in the chat. What's one thing that we've covered that's been quite profound for you? Chunking. I like it. Bit of chunking. Make mistakes in training. Very cool. Very cool. There is a great podcast that talks about the importance of making mistakes. How, not why. Interesting. Yes. Do not ask me why I did something. Support strategies. Cool. I will smash you in the face. Making mistakes and working through how and yeah, cool. Yeah, nice, nice. Different strategies. Cool. Tell them the why you want them to think. Ooh, very cool. Very cool. Very cool. Very cool. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, beautiful, beautiful, Ryan. Yeah, and it's a real life example. Understanding the ACS there, very cool, Sheila. It's a real life example. It happened on at a university on the Gold Coast. They literally put a sign up saying "Don't slam the door," and strangely, the next couple of days, all people did was just slam the freaking door. It was hilarious. It was just a great example of it. Writing strategy student. Yeah, nice, nice, beautiful. So, right to their level, level, not ours. Awesome. Alrighty, folks. Thank you so much for sharing those. Really, really appreciate it. So, not yet, but in a moment, we're going to take a break and we're going to come back at 11:25. We're going to jump into the assessment booklet. This section is being recorded. So, at the end of today, I will send you through a recording. So, if you're the kind of person that madly wants to take notes, you can take as many notes as you want, but also know that it is going to be recorded as well. On that note, folks, take a break and we'll come back at 11. I know it's cutting it fine, but we'll come back at 11:25. Thanks, team. Alrighty, welcome back, team. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Drop a P in the chat if you're present, ready to go, ready to rock and roll, and you are all good there. Alrighty, drop a yes in the chat if you've learned something valuable today and something you'll be able to potentially go out and use. And yes, awesome. Seeing lots of yeses. Fantastic. So what we're going to do now is you're going to grab your notebook. You're going to grab your notebook and you're going to make some notes. And you're going to watch me do all the hard work, right? So what I would like you to do, though, is in your notebook, if you just write down the following thing, full sentences. Full sentences, full sentences, full sentences. All right, full sentences. Everyone, drop a full sentences in the chat there. If you could, please drop a full sentences or an FS, however you choose to say it. Okay, cool. Happy days, right? So what's going to happen now is I'm going to work with you and explain this booklet and explain the assessment, right? Now, I'm going to explain it. I'm going to put some dot points into these sections here, and you are going to take some notes, but you don't need to do it at the same time. Hopefully that makes sense. Drop a yes in the chat if that makes sense, right? So I'm going to do it, and then at the end, I'm going to send it through to you. And then what are you going to do? You're going to put it into full sentences, right? Because it's too hard if you try and keep up and type at the same time. It's just too much for the brain, right? So I'm going to do some stuff. I'm going to send you a copy. And also, this segment is being recorded as well, right? So all you need to do is sit there, absorb, and have a good time, so to speak, right? So cool. I just need to get myself set up. All right, so this is your assessment booklet. This is the LLN booklet, so to speak, right? And it is in the email that I sent out earlier today. If you haven't got the email, just send me an email and I'll send it out to you one more time. Now, this document, basically, the most important thing is that you fill out the front cover here and that you do sign it, all right? So if you're taking notes, which I'm sure that you are, please make a note to sign the front cover. And if the e-signature box doesn't work, then just print it off and sign it by handwriting. Let me know that's all understood. Drop an S for signature in the chat and let me know that you got that. Beautiful, thank you. All right, coming down. All right, so we got the 5 core skills. Please send out to me. Yep, not sure what that means, Paul. I have already sent it quite a few times though. So I will send it again. And yeah, I will send it again to everybody. Maybe I'm sending it to the wrong email address, but we will get it sorted one more time. And not sure why it's not happening for you there. I'm going with the email that I've been given. So yeah. All right, it's coming out again. Coming out again. So on that note, and anyway, you're getting a copy of this anyway. So just yeah, it'll be coming out to you. So just relax, take a deep breath, you'll be all go. All right, so listen briefly describe the 5 core skill areas of the ACSF. So what I would love you to do, drop in the chat, bit of a moment to speak Russian, drop them in the chat. What are the 5 core skills as I type it in here? Let's test your memory. Alrighty. Are those definitions making sense for you there, folks? Drop a yes in the chat. And hypothetically, if I've made any typos, fix my typos, right? And you can take some responsibility around that. That is all good. Make the sentences make sense for you if you want to there. Cool. So on that note, Ryan's good. No one else. That's a little bit concerning. But anyway, I'm going to move on and we're going to check out this section here. Number two. Number two here it says, so remember we got level 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. A new entrant into the industry has just left year 12 high school. While they have little knowledge of their new industry, they have been taught different ways to solve problems. What learning indicator would apply, folks? Drop a 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 in the chat. Let me know what are you thinking for learning. And just taking guesses here. It's fine. Okay, cool. Sarah's gone 3. Cool. Ryan's gone 2. I'm going to wait for a few more. Cool. I'm going 3. Some strategies are available. Strategies are available, but limited. Yeah. All right. Next one. What oral communication? So, a new entrant into the industry has been in the workforce for 15 years. Has excellent work skills and performance reports. Working in a team environment, has great ability to manage and get the team message across. What do we think, folks? Drop a 1, 2, 3. Cool. Liking it. Reading level. Administrative staff member undertaking maybe for her. Okay, cool. Cool. So, administration staff member undertaking progression training with the organization, been in the current role for 5 years, but not have much experience outside their own role. They're enthusiastic and deal with some complex documents in their day-to-day work. Cool. Lee's gone 2. I'm going to split the difference and I'm going to go 2 to 3. Only uses some complex documents. Okay. All right, so we're going to come down, and number 3 here is discuss a combination of knowledge of the assessment, ACSF and foundation skills within units of competency can assist in development of workplace training program. So I'm going to give you a sentence, and when you get it, you're going to fill in the blank, right? So at my workplace, people struggle most with X core skill. They struggle to be able to write reports or I don't know, read emails or do calculations. If I understood the ACSF better, I could support them to blah, blah. All right. Drop in the chat. Does number 3 make sense for you there? At my workplace, people struggle to do X core skill, learning, reading, writing, or communication. And then even if they don't, just make it up. We all good? Not moving on till I get a response in the chat. Lee's going, yep. Awesome. Sure. So number 4 here, it says describe the process you would use to determine the skill required for a specific workplace task, and then individual staff capabilities there, right? So number 1, talk to the supervisor. Now, earlier today, I said full sentences. So when you come to answer this, drop in full sentences. I'm just going to give you some bullet points. Sure. Let me just zoom in a little bit so you can see it better. All right. If you're good on number 4 there, drop a 4 in the chat and let me know you're all good on 4. Awesome. All right. So number 5 here, number 5, number 5, I'm just zooming out here for a little moment, is describe 3 strategies you could use to address identified LLN needs of core participants, right? So what I would love you to do for number 5 when you come to do it is if someone has an issue with writing, I could. All right. And then you pop in a strategy that you could use to support writing. All right. Next one could be reading. And then the next one could be numeracy. All right. You all good on 5 there? Let me know that you're all good on 5 by dropping a 5, dropping a 5, dropping a 5. Awesome. And you can pick out one of the strategies that we talked about today. So we're going to come down and number 6. Yeah. Number 6, done for you there. You may want to elaborate and pop in some more details. But if you're all good on 6, you know what to do, folks. Cecilia, awesome. Thank you. Is this helpful, folks? Drop an H for helpful if you're enjoying a bit of support. And yes, awesome. Ryan said helpful. Fantastic. Describe the purpose of reasonable adjustment. All right. So you may have come across this term in other places. So reasonable adjustment is modifying the training and assessment methods to suit the learner's physical, mental, or emotional needs. An example of that might be blah, 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 right? So number 7 could be something like, if you're taking notes, number 7 could be something like if someone's in a wheelchair, adjust the height. If somebody can't read and write, we do it verbally. If somebody can't is blind, we then do you braille, right? If somebody can't read or write, maybe we do it practically. All right. So that's number 7. Number 7, if you're good on 7, drop a 7, drop a 7, drop a 7. The faster you do that, the faster we move on. Awesome. All right. Yeah, cool. That should be good there. So number 8 is in my industry, we have the following available: local ESL school. ESL stands for English as a second language. TAFE, workplace mentors, translation services, HR support team. Sarah, all over it. 8. Excellent. As I said earlier today, full sentences are even better. All right, number 9. If you're good on 9, 9 is culture, social sensitivity. Don't point them out. Don't pick on them. That fun stuff. And then cultural sensitivity. If you're teaching Aboriginals or Thai students or Japanese people or whatever it may be, just drop in a thing to be aware of. Right. To Aboriginal people, they're things to think about there. So you may want to Google teaching Aboriginal people and see what comes up. All right, so as I'm typing, you may want to just read question 10 there to yourself. All right, if you're good on 10, you know what to do, folks. Hopefully it's all making sense for you there as well. Awesome. All right. So next thing that we're going, ooh, bit of zooming out too soon, zooming in too soon. All right. So next thing that we're going to look at is a unit of competency, participate in WHS, risk assessment, blah, blah. So I'm going to tell you what I'm doing and then I'll do it for you. And you can just know that all that's done here is all that will be required. So when we come to training.gov.au, and I'll just bring it back over onto my other screen here. You know, where you have one of those moments where things just disappear on you. Cool. Awesome. If TGA is showing up on your screen, can you just drop a yes in the chat and let me know that you can see training.gov.au? Awesome. Thanks, team. All right, so I'm going to come down to the performance criteria and I'm going to tell you what I'm doing and then I'm going to just do it. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look for any words, they're called trigger words, that would align into the categories of learning, reading, writing, oral communication, and numeracy, right? So if I look at this word here, let's go with review and document. Review and document. What kind of core skill words would they be, folks? Drop in the chat. Review and document. Would that be learning, reading, writing, oral communication, or numeracy? Review is probably what? And document is probably, yeah, beautiful. And what's document? Yeah, beautiful. You guys get it. Awesome. So what I do is I look through and I'm going to pop some words in each of the boxes there, right? So if I look at learning, I'm going to go a 3 and I'm going to go with let's go with 2.1 participating in meetings, selecting risk methods. Reading, I'm going to go with 3 again and 3.5. Review and document. Writing, I'm probably going to go 3 and 3.7. Cool. Awesome. Is this making sense, folks? Drop a yes in the chat if it's making sense. I don't really spend that much time on it because I don't really agree with trigger word analysis. Another time, another conversation for another place, but that's all good. So if you are an LLN specialist, I want to get into it, you can certainly go your hardest with trigger words, but again, it's not the best way to do it. That's my personal view. And I think I've got some cred to be able to say that. Cool. So I'm going to go with 3, and I'm going to go with all right, so for this section here, you don't need to do anything other than what's in this item here, right? So if you've got that, you've understood that, just drop a yes in the chat if that makes sense. So you don't need to add anything. I've already done enough here for you, right? So you don't need to email me and say, oh, do I need to add more? No, just it's fine as is. All right, awesome. Now, section 2 here, it says learners LLN needs, right? So all we're going to do, I'll just let you know there is a scenario here. You don't need to read it. I'm just going to imagine that you've read it. And well, there's a couple of reasons. One, yeah, anyway. So what you're going to do, you're going to change it to profile number 1, right? So when you get the document, it should be set on profile number 1. But what I would like you to take a note of is profile number 1 here. What scores does the person have? We've got learning 2. Reading is 3, writing is 2, oral is 2, and numeracy is a 1. Can you all see that, folks? We got the scores in profile number 1. Really important that you make a note of that. So you may want to take a photo of what's in the chat or write down those scores that the person's got. Once you've got the scores, drop a D in the chat. That'll let me know that you've done that. Thanks, Sarah. Thanks, Simon. Awesome. All right, so then we're going to come down and we're going to check out this section here. This section is a bit of an analysis of the scenario that we've got up here, right? And I'm just going to help you out with it because I don't want you to get lost in the weeds of the scenario too much. So learning, she has limited life experience. So her score is a, what do we say, a 2. Reading, she has limited vocabulary exposure, so her score would be a 3. You can read the scenario if you want and go back and take a look, but anyway, you'll probably agree with my stats. Writing, she is only able to write to the degree required for her job role. She struggled to answer the interview questions. Her numeracy wasn't officially tested, but we can assume a level 1. All right. So we all good on this question here, folks? I'm not going to say the number because the numbering's changed, but just drop a yes in the chat. You don't need to add anything to that. You don't need to add anything to that. You don't need to add anything to that. You don't need to add anything. Cool. All right, so now we come down and this section here, where we got this little graph here, this will require you to draw a dotted line. Now, everybody's PDF and viewers and stuff is different. So if you know how to draw a dotted line with your cursor, do that. If you don't know how to, then print it off and just draw it by hand. Does that make sense, folks? If you know how to draw it with the computer, draw it. But if you don't. Now, the thing is, we are going to draw her score. So in her case, her learning is a 2, reading is a 3, writing is a 2, oral is a 3, and then numeracy is a 1. All right. So basically all you're doing is drawing a dotted line like this example here. Well, that's not correct, but or maybe it is. No, it's not, right? So you're going to draw the dotted line and you're going to show her her scores, which are this. Drop a yes in the chat if that makes sense. And if you need to print it out and draw the dotted line, draw the dotted line. So I'm not going to do it now because I lose my cursor kind of thing, right? So now 2, 3, 2, 3, 1. All right. So yep. So then we're going to come down, and in her case, her biggest gaps were her reading and writing, and her oral communication. All right. Cool. So you can keep that as that. Then we're going to come down and identify support services. Now in here, we can copy and paste what we've got up here. We're going to copy what's in 8 and we're going to come down and check out this section here. We're going to paste that in. All right. Does that make sense to everyone? We're just taking what's above, drop it in here. Why? Because the question says we can. All right. Give me some response on 3. If 3 is good for you, drop a 3 in the chat. Let me know that you're all good with that. Awesome. Thanks, team. All right, coming down. Now, number 3, section 3. All right, folks, drop a yes in the chat if that makes sense, what I put in there, right? Because this is, if I can be brutally honest, this is the section where people fail the most. And I'm using the expression fail because they don't listen, right? And I know I'm getting a little bit frustrated, but the number of times that people will only send me a good slide. They don't send me the bad. I need the good and the bad. I need the bad and I need the good. And in here in this space, I need an explanation. All right. So I really, 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 really want you to put in an explanation. And I really, really, really want you to put in a bad slide. I really, really put a good slide. I really, really want you to do that. All right. So what does that look like? Well, it looks like the words that I've got in there, right? And E. Okay, cool. So we got an explanation and we got a good slide and a bad slide, right? So what do? Just like earlier today, I showed you that I went to Google and I found a bad slide, right? So you could go to your workplace and find a bad slide, and then you're going to change it to make it look like a good slide. All right. So we got an explanation and we go to our workplace, we find a bad slide and we change it into a good slide. Now, before you ask me the question, what if all my PowerPoints at my workplace are fantastic? Well, I say, well, make a bad one and then change it to a good one. Drop a yes in the chat if that makes sense, right? All we're looking for you to prove to me is that you know how to make a bad slide into a good slide, right? So what does that mean? You take complex words and you simplify them. Or maybe there's like, I don't know, all this font and then you simplify it into pictures, right? So how many slides? Well, it's one slide bad and one side good. So in total, you will send me 2 slides and you'll attach them separately. Does that make sense, folks? Drop a yes in the chat. We got an explanation and we've got 2 slides, right? And I'm being very intentional in this because I would literally say, no matter how many times I explain it, no matter how many different ways I explain it, people will go, oh, here's a bad one. I'm like, okay, where's the good one? Oh, I didn't realize. I'm like, okay, I did tell you. Good slide, bad slide. Now, hypothetically, you can do a quiz or a learner guide or something else if you want, but the slides are normally the easiest way to go there, right? And if, as I said, you don't have anything bad at your workplace, just go to Google and type in bad PowerPoint slide, see what comes up, and you're good to go there, right? So hopefully we're all good. So we're going to come down now, section 4. Now, section 4 is a bit of a case study, So we got Unity Water case study. Now, if you click on this link here, it's going to take you to some videos. It's going to take you some videos, and the video page looks like this. All right, so you're going to watch the videos and then answer some questions. Hypothetically, if the link doesn't work, just go to Google and type in Unity Water case study and push enter and see what comes up there, right? So you just watch the video, answer the questions, and you should be good to go there. All right. Then we come down and we got a few more questions about Unity Water. Unity Water is a real company, and they launched a project, and they talk about how they supported people with LLN challenges. Coming down, we got some more Unity Water going on, a few more questions there. Then we come down to reflective practice, and this is all about you. It's all about you and supporting people. So I address issues relating to language for my learners in my role when I show them slides with technical language. I address issues relating to literacy for my learners in my role when I get documents translated into foreign languages. Numeracy, I give them practice time to do their calculations. So this section here, you don't need to change very much at all. If you want to go into more detail, you can. From my my supervisor. All right, so here I would say something like, I need to develop my ability to support people with reading and writing or with numeracy. All right. I can get help on these areas for the following sources, reading and writing hotline, LN specialist, my colleague who is really good at X. All right. At numeracy or whatever it may be then. All right. Are we all good on the self-reflection and this section here? Drop a 5 in the chat if you're good on 5. If you want further details, just let me know, but just interpret it the best way you can, or just go with whatever's in this document. So on that note, then you're going to come down here and we're going to place for your name and signature and then the date. All right. So this document is going to be the basis for your assessment. And then the only other thing that you're going to work on is the good slide, bad slide, and then the explanation in here. So good slide, bad slide, good slide, and the explanation in here. All right, cool. So on that note, I'm going to come all the way up to the top here. And I'm going to throw it out to the floor and just drop in a Q in the chat if you got a question. If you don't have a question, drop an NQ into the chat and that'll let me know that you don't have a question. But go ahead, happy to answer any questions at all. Simon's no questions. Awesome. No questions, Sarah. No questions. Awesome. Well, folks, that is the end of the language literacy and numeracy episode in your life there, right? But I trust that you've got some great strategies, great concepts that you'll be able to go away, implement, and use and enhance your communication. In regards to complete the assessment, complete it, send it through to me and I will upload it to Moodle for you there, right? And when you send it through, make sure that you attach the good slide, bad slide, or the bad slide, good slide, and make sure you include the explanation there, right? Now, in regards to this, I will send you a copy of the book and yep, absolutely right. And so I'll send you a copy of this book and I'll also send you a copy of the recording. But the recording will take a little bit of time, so just hold your horses on that one. But other than that, folks, we are technically done on the LLN, so to speak. And hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you got some value, and hopefully you've learned some cool stuff you'll be able to go away and implement. On that note, folks, thank you so much for a great day, and have an awesome afternoon as you travel through the document. Have a great weekend, and I will see you on the other side. In regards to assessing, I'll try and jump onto it next week as much as I can, but I am a little bit detained with some family stuff going on next week. But week after, yep, I'll be free to do assessing as well. So on that note, folks, go ahead and drop a yay in the chat, and let's celebrate the completion of the learning component there of the great LLM. But on that note, folks, thanks so much. And I will see you next time on the traps in the world of learning. Thanks so much, team. And Ryan, you said a question. Feel free to unmute yourself and ask away. Thanks, Ryan. Go for it.
Thank you.
That's all right. All good.
Thanks, Mark. Bye.
Thanks, Mark.
Here you go, Mark.
Hey,
Hey, mate. I just had a question about the design knowledge assessment.
Go for it.
So on here, I've done 2 attempts. The first one, I got 1 wrong.
Okay.
The second one's sitting there. It says it's waiting to be graded. Do you grade that, or is that somebody else?
Cool. Give me 2 seconds. I'll have an easy answer for you in 2 seconds. I just want to close off this task.